Yeah. So when it comes to day-to-day, part of my role includes getting to run around the university and speak with different faculty and staff and students about the work that they're doing or their expertise areas. And then I never leave one of those conversations without referencing a collaboratory activity that I have published for public viewing. And oftentimes people are like, oh, like I didn't know that that person was working on that thing. And it's like, oh yeah, here is, a short snippet about it. I'm also happy to do an introduction, but feel free to reach out to that person on your own if you want. They'll usually wait for an introduction, which is fine and totally okay. But I use it as like my Rolodex of like projects and activities that are going on so that I can kind of bring that to every conversation. And then with community partners, I like to share it with them as unique examples of how they might partner with the university that aren't just student internships. Because every time I have a conversation with a nonprofit organization leader, they say, we want more volunteers and more student interns, which that in and of itself is a challenge because then who's going to supervise these interns? What are they going to be working on? What type of professional development or workforce development experiences are they getting? Does it align with like what they're also interested in? And we want to ensure that what they're working on with organizations is not just like grunt work is important because it makes things happen, but that it's not just solely grunt work. And so I use collaboratory and collaboratory examples as things that I kind of push out to them as like, oh, like, look, there's this opportunity, where these ASU students did a bunch of interviews with high school students about post-secondary challenges and, what they're interested in, and then also met with their writing teacher. And then over the course of the semester, with their input, designed college essay writing workshops for juniors in high school, not seniors in this case. And then they also did like a parent workshop that was completely in Spanish because all of the parents were Spanish speaking, primarily Spanish speaking only. And like, they were like, oh, I didn't know that I could do that. I thought, we were just thinking of like student teacher placements. And it's like, no, like none of these students that, from ASU have any background in teaching or have an interest in going into teaching. What they care most about is, addressing a challenge that the high school students are facing or their teachers, working with the high school students and also talking to them about like what they're studying or majoring in. And so I think of this one student named Adrian who's studying speech and hearing science. And he comes from a first generation Latinx household. And when we went to the high school, none of the high school students knew what speech and hearing science was. And so he talked to them about like what an incredible major it is, what a unique opportunity it is for students who are bilingual because most speech and hearing interventions are just in English. And then it became all of this thing where it was like a bunch of students were like, tell me more about that major. Or, what is that? Or like, oh yeah, like I understand, that there's been this experience that I've had myself. And then, so I guess that was another long tangent of just giving an example of an activity that would be in collaboratory. So I don't even know where I just went. Unique examples of working with ASU that are not just student internships, paid or unpaid. We always want them to be paid. But it was nice because with this partnership, this collaboration, it was embedded within a class. The faculty member was part of, every interaction that the students had with each other. And then it was nice because eventually they kind of cut out all of the extra people and it was just the teacher, her students, the faculty member, her students, and then they co-designed it and did this thing together where, it wasn't someone from administration watching over on either side. It was just like this organic creation. And so then on December 1st, they did their workshops. They wrote things together. They had all of these really cool things. There's an article about it. And it's just like, wow, all of that started because the school was interested in teacher candidate placements, which we couldn't necessarily provide. And it also built out the capacity for the school and the capacity of ASU and our enrollment services folks. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Kind of went in a weird direction.